Hello and welcome, as it is the end of the 18th day of January 2018. My name is Derek. Everything you do within your own risk and own reward. I'm going to talk a little bit about Litecoin. I'm going to talk about my portfolio strategy, as well as one I was doing very aggressively the last 3 or 4 or 5 days that I am no longer doing. Mainly because I want to primarily focus on trading Litecoin against that of Bitcoin. It's been very successful for me, as I was able to make for many days over at 1 Litecoin per day doing such, not at making or playing so that my Bitcoin balance stays the same, but I work to increase the amount of Litecoin via trades. And I was making over a Litecoin each of those days, and I thought, you know what, it'd be a good decision maybe for me to dump all my other coins for the purposes of having Bitcoin so that I could play this trade of Litecoin versus Bitcoin more aggressively. And that's exactly what I did. I am not involved, or I don't really. The coins are for a mechanism of trade. They're a vehicle. Every single one of these is for me. The play's always been to increase my portfolio. And I noticed within having extra volume that I was able to make like 3 Litecoin yesterday, make about triple that I did the days before. But this is the 5-minute chart of today's action. This is UTC on the bottom. Eastern time, there's a 6-hour differential. So 12 o'clock is 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific time. I got up at 8 a.m., which would have been 1400 hours. So I would have got up around here. I usually do my 2.5-minute morning video a little after 9, so I would have done it in here at some point. I don't know if I did it earlier. I can't remember. And then I made the vast majority of my profits in here. And a little bit again in here, and a little bit down here, and that was it. In fact, I made a very good chunk. The best chunk I made was down in here. But I made good in here. I made good in here. I was AFK during this beautiful down move. And for the rest of the way, with all this going on, I really can't profit. Now, if you look at the charts, okay, never mind, that's going to be the next one. Let me get the old one. I want to show you these lines in here. When you see a market like this, what that means is that the bid-ask ratio has a major difference, and that you could potentially try to hit sells at the top end of this and buys down towards here. Now, that's not what I'm doing within this, although it's very close. And if it's profitable enough to do so, then you can make spectacular gains, but the volatility has to be in place. When you're paying commissions to trade, you want to make sure that you are doing well. But the way I look at it is, if I can make 1, 1.5, 2% plays, which is exactly what I'm trying to do, and doing very, very well, and do a lot of them in a day, then I can make a decent amount. So that's what the goal is. So then let's move on to the other chart that I accidentally shown before, that was queued to be shown now. And this is a 14-hour or 840-minute chart, which I've talked about the sideways action within the movement. Let me just get my there we go. The sideways movement. Nothing much going on. If we look at the size of the candles in here, they've been very small. It makes it very hard for me to make too much profit within it. So I look forward to times where I can trade these great volatile moves, because I know they're always going to happen. And that's basically what I'm looking for. These markets, all of them, all the cryptos contain extreme amount of volatility, enough to talk about how it's a major roller coaster. And I don't fear it. I love it. I look to profit from it, and I do such. Now, let's talk about an interesting strategy, but before I do, I kind of need to use interesting mechanisms if I want to avoid paying, well, high Satoshi cost Bitcoin transfers, because as I'm buying and selling Bitcoin and Litecoin, that means I'm going to be transferring or withdrawing Bitcoin and Litecoin as balances in different places become low and high. And the problem is almost everywhere where you try to withdraw Bitcoin from exchanges is that it can cost 100,000 Satoshi, sometimes more, but that's generally the price. Polo next raised theirs from 10,000 to 50,000 recently. So that's about the lowest that I've been able to find. So it becomes very, very expensive to do so. So therefore, what I like to do is I like to find these other codes that I can play on there. The easy one. And now that the price of it's a little bit higher, I wish to be closer to 100 now for this purpose, but 80, 90 makes it good. It's currently trading in around 69. Is Doggy. Let's assume that you are wanting to bring Bitcoin over to a site, but you don't like that 100,000 Satoshi cost. Let's assume that on the site you want to transfer Bitcoin from, the price is 69 and 70. Now what I did earlier today is I had noticed that this was the bid ask. There was about 13 Bitcoins on Bittrex on the 70, and there was about a Bitcoin and a half or two on the 69. So I thought, okay, then I'm going to put a buy order for 69. But where I wanted to send the Bitcoin had the difference of a 70 and a 71. So that was a great example. There's times where sometimes I'll just buy here and sell the 70 on the other side, realizing that I'm still going to be paying less with the 0.4-ish% on trading. And there's a whole bunch of other codes that this can be done with. In fact, I'm going to go over a list of them, a few of them that I've written down for myself, because it's just easy for me to have them ready for just once to look at that can be very profitable, let alone having to pay to transfer. Monetary Unit, GRS, Feathercoin, Cannabis Coin, Potcoin, Gigabyte, Doggy, PivX, Komodo, Excel, Crown Coin, Faircoin, Emmercoin, Golden, Bitbean, Blackcoin, Ethereum Classic, and Syndicate, I think the sync is. See, I look at these markets, and I'm going to bring my chalkboard up now for the next segment. And I'm going to refer to the coin of that of Cannabis Coin, CANN. Now, the smaller exchange had bids of greater than 0.25 Bitcoin at the price of 1,389 Satoshi. And at that exact same time, the larger exchange had a bid ask of around approximately around 1330, 1355. Now you can buy the 55 up, and you're not going to make much of a gain. You're only going to gain 34 basis points, which is still greater than or around 2% when you include rake fees, and it's a bit better going lower on this number. Now for me, what I probably should have done was buy a larger number, probably close to 0.25 worth, and transfer, then sell it all in the market. And then, instead of paying $13.55, try to strategically put bids in around $13.30, $13.35, and try to get a bit better price as well. But instead, I did a smaller number. Did it, transferred it, it worked. I sold it for $13.89. Then I did it again. But when I came back, there really wasn't anything available. So I'm still trying to unload it now. And if I want to get rid of it, I have to take a really bad price, or I have to transfer it back, because a lot of times you can see if, say, a fair number is, say, this 1329, 1345. If you go to these smaller exchanges, you're usually going to see somewhere in the area of, like, say, maybe the ask prices are, say, $14.75 and the bids are like $1,205 or something. And then the numbers in here would be like a lower $11.50, $11.70, $1,000 and so on, and the numbers from $14.75 would be higher. So if you have coins on the site and you sell it off at market price at $12.05, whomever is the one that has the buy order there got a good deal. And if you want to buy on those smaller sites and you pay that higher price, well, those who got in at $14.75 got a good deal. And that's exactly what I was doing with those codes that I showed, as well as other ones as well. And the way I look at it is you want to get as many of the tokens that you can. Start with a set amount when starting. I was generally going around 0.02 Bitcoin and see how much I can take it up to. Some of them ended up actually down because the markets went lower, but a lot of them did very well, including the cannabis coin itself a few days ago, where I was able to double the amount that I owned simply by buying low, selling high, and I'm going to show that in a little bit. But I buy back the amount of coins of my sale. So if I buy, say, or if I sell X amount of units for 0.02 Bitcoin, I'm going to buy whatever 0.02 will give me back at a lower price. And then I'm going to load many of these coins when upside reaches. And I'm going to now go over this, now moving on to the next slide. And we'll just call it ABC coin. Now let's assume that you bought on a larger exchange, a code of whatever, and the price was 1,000, or you bought 1,331 of them at 1,500 Satoshi. So what you did is you moved them to the smaller site. Price was, say somebody had a sell order for 1,600. So you put a sell order for 1,599. Check the computer every so often, see if anyone takes it. Or if what happens is if the main site, the price ask, goes from, say, 1,500 to 1,560. I'm going to eliminate that sell order at 15.99 and go to 16.50 or 16.70 because I want to make sure that when somebody buys, I'm going to get a good enough percentage gain. But let's assume that someone took your offer in like a half an hour even. Sweet. So you sold everything at that price and you bought back 1,496, we'll say, at around 14.20. We'll say that the price as a market would go down in this case. And then later on, maybe the next day or later that day, you sold at 1,800. Maybe the example I talked about where the price went up. Or maybe you left to go somewhere or whichever and you weren't going to be running the computer. And you don't want to risk selling at 1,600 when the price is going for 15 when you know you're not going to be back on the computer for hours. So you move it a little bit higher. But in this case, that's actually, I'm thinking yeah. So in this case, you sell at 1,800. But you only sell 800. Even though you had them all for sale, someone only took about half of them. Okay. So you buy it, say, at 960 of them, which would be getting 160 for free. After you recently got about 160 of them for free before. But then if we notice on the next ones below, you would be seeing the price would decline. You'd see 1,200 buys come in where you're selling at 1,480. Maybe the market goes down and there's a big bid-ask offer for that. Maybe you did all of those moves in like 2 hours. That's what I've done before. But you keep on going, selling and buying in this nature. Now, after we finish this off, we can see that the price would rise. And assuming on the last 3 trades, the price jumps from, or for the last 2 trades rather, the price jumps from 2,900. You only get a couple trades in. You're selling, say, all of it at 3,400, buying it back at 2,900. Then the price, say, a few hours later rallies. You're able to get some at 67.55, and maybe you're able to buy back at 55. Again, when you are playing this game, you want to make sure that if the market goes up enough where your sell orders are too close to the price, you want to remove them and make them higher. So let's assume the price is 12,900 and you think it's going to go down. Well, you would have accumulated quite a few. We have about 7,844 tokens after starting with 1,331. That's all that you're trying to do within this type of game, is gain as many as you can, realizing they're going to have big swings down, they're going to have big swings up. But when it's time where they're way up or you got to get out, your amount in both what you own and their value should be well. So 7,844 of them would be worth about a Bitcoin. So I would look to sell about 6,000 of them, the vast majority, leaving about 1,800 to continue doing what you're doing so you can gain more or in case it goes higher, but then look to buy back aggressively if the price happens to maybe go down to 3,000 or maybe even 3,000 Satoshi kind of deal. Okay, now let's just draw an example of what a chart may look like. And I want to get this in white. I've done that now. Okay, so you start off, market, like we've seen before, can have a lot of swing downs, do a lot of sideways action, and when they go, they go. And assuming you are at this point and you've seen it so many times before, when a market gets that high, it's going to have a very serious correction oftentimes. So if you're able to, in here, start off with, say, 500 of any random token, you're hoping for exactly what you see, some nice moves up and down like that, but not up enough where you're only going to have so many tokens. At this stage, again, you could have like 3,000 or so. And then unload, like at this case, you'd unload over 2,000 of them and get very good gains within the play. Now, I've even seen situations where the gains can be extreme. Say, for example, something's on the larger site you can buy easily for 3,500. Well, I've seen it go for like 5,000 and even like in that area there for people having on bids where you're gaining like 20, 30+%. It's outrageous at times. And when that's the case, if you can, say, sell at 5,000, you might get lucky enough where you get a situation where you see something like that. Someone's got 1.84 Bitcoin available. And I'm going to tell you why this happens, I think, because I've seen this happen over and over, and I know this mistake now that I've been thinking about it. But let's just go do a non-even number. Let's just say it's 5,008. Or even 5,008. Again, the price is 3,500. One risky play would be buying about over a Bitcoin's worth at this price, sending it over, and then selling it. Now, granted, in that time, the bid can get removed. Other people can buy that bid up. But I was thinking earlier, let's assume that this is what the asks are on some of the codes, say 5090, and all this type of stuff. And then the bids, well, they're going to be much lower than, say, they're 3,000, 2,800, and then lower and lower. What I'm thinking would be the case for somebody there is this is somebody who owns this code, and they want to sell everything that they have at 1 Satoshi lower than 5,009. The only problem is they type their entry in the buy button and not the sell button. So they type in, say, 5008 maximum bet. And that's what they have in their portfolios, 1.84 Bitcoin. And I've seen these levels stay around for quite some time, like hours at times. So maybe sometimes they really want to buy it. And when I was buying the cannabis earlier, that's exactly the type of situation that I seen, where there was a bid 1 Satoshi lower than the ask for a large amount. And I was able to gobble up an okay amount and get spectacular gains. Now, Voxels was my only other big winner that I had doing such. I was able to make several trades, some of them for 20-35% gains on the play. But when I'm doing this, it's very hard to get that much in volume. Sometimes you can try forever to get buys and sells in the smaller exchanges, and they'll just never come. And when they do, only so many will play. So with me trading Litecoin against Bitcoin, instead of making like 1 or 2 trades per day with the code, I can make many dozens per day with Litecoin. And essentially try to get more gains, or just as many gains as I was before. Well, actually, I think I can get more, because when Litecoin volatility picks up, I think I should make a lot. So to sum up, I'm basically going to be stating, what's your strategy? Is it working? Can you modify it and improve it? And this, I don't want you to answer this in the comments. This is what you ask yourself. As if you are in a situation where you're trading and you're losing, or you're not doing too well, then you may have to ask yourself, what is it that I can do to improve the situation? Because it's a very complicated game. I've talked a lot about different trading mechanisms with people, and the way I trade Litecoin, most people couldn't even fathom what I do. And then when I go over the easier strategies, it seems as if people get very lost within the trading game. And you know what? That means if you are able to do these amazing things, you are one of the very few that understands what can be done. And if you realize, you know what, I can't do this, I don't have the time for this, but I'm able to get gains or outperform the Bitcoin market by using whatever strategy, then great. And if you're unable to do much and you just want to buy and hold, then you shouldn't be watching this video, especially at this time. But you just buy your cryptos, or you just hold them somewhere and you wait and then you hold. And that's really what I would suggest anyone to do if they're not good at trading the market, because they could buy a Bitcoin, lose on the trades, and be worth 0.75 or 0.6 when they could have just bought and held the one and just stayed at one. So thank you for tuning into today's video. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.